tonight's meeting by reviewing our mission. Our mission is to prepare and support all students within a culture of excellence to do their best and to be their best so that each can be a successful, contributing citizen, able to adapt to change and to successfully respond to the future. Do we have any public participation? Okay. Seeing none, we'll move on to recognitions and acknowledgments. And congratulations to Emma Williams, who was the Optimist Club Student of the Month, who is a 6th grader from Minot Consolidated School. And I'd also like to say thank you to Melanie, to Tina, to Jenny, and the administrators and teachers who contributed to the RSU news that was included in the adult education flyer. It went to every household in RSU 16. And it certainly represented a significant amount of time planning and a lot of work put into it. So thank you. And pass it on to Melanie, please.
I certainly will.
And we have no agenda adjustments. And our first presentation is our audit. So if you could come up, and we'll put a microphone there on the end, down here by Steve.
Aaron, can you move there? Yeah. Thank you.
And that audit was sent to you to review by email, and then the hard copy is in front of us.
All right, ready? Thank you for having me. My name is Christian Smith. I'm a principal at MacPage LLC out of South Portland, Maine. I think this is our 4th year doing the audit for the school district. Hopefully you've all had a chance to review the financial statements and hopefully the management letter and comments letter as well. So I'd like to intend to keep this at more of a high level, try to give you the highlights, and certainly I can answer any questions that you might have on the financial statements or the comments that we came up with as a result of our audit. I'd like to start off with just giving everybody an overview of the relationship with the audit firm so everybody understands what it is we do and what our responsibilities are, as well as the responsibilities of management of RSU 16. We are independent auditors. We work for the board. We work with management to perform the audit. However, you've hired us to report on the financial statements, which are ultimately the responsibility of management. And we do assist with the preparation of the financial statements and the related notes, but ultimately that is management's responsibility, and the relationship is that we do work for the board. I'd like to go right into it. We do issue quite a few different reports, and I'm just going to list them out just so you have an idea of what all the different reports are, and then I'll go over some of the highlights in the financial statements. So we do issue a financial report, which is, of course, the report of all of your different funds, grant activities, school lunch program. We issue a separate management letter. We also issue what we call a comments letter, which is more of a best practices recommendations. We issue what we call a SAS 114 letter, which is our governance letter, which describes how the audit went. I should make mention of that. That in terms of that letter, that's kind of the standard letter where there were no issues to report as a result of performing the audit. There were no disagreements with management. There were no changes in accounting practices and no difficulties in performing the audit. So that you should know that's the clean report to governance that the audit did go well. We also do a separate audit, which is called the single audit. We're required to audit federal grant money that you receive, and there's a separate set of rules with respect to that audit. I can go over the results of that as well. We also issue what's called a data collection form, which is a submission of the single audit to the Federal Audit Clearinghouse. We also issue a report on your unemployment compensation. It's a wage certification that goes to the Maine School Management Association. And then we also, lastly, we issue another report. We have to report to the State Department of Education compliance with laws and regulations, and we also have to certify that the financial information that you've uploaded to the state of Maine is complete and accurate. So that in that report as well, there were no findings, no violations or non-compliance with Maine laws as it relates to the Department of Education. So going right into the financial statements, if you do have a copy there with you, you want to follow along. Pages 1 and 2, that's our auditor's opinion. Probably the most important part of the financial statements. So in our auditor's opinion, we express what we call an unmodified opinion, otherwise known as a clean opinion, which means that the financial statements do reflect all accounts, all activities of the school district, and they've been reported in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles and include all the required notes and disclosures. So that's the highest level of assurance that we can give on your financial statements in being an unmodified or a clean opinion. Probably the one page that you're probably most interested in is your general fund budget to actual. That can be found on page 35. On that page, so we disclose the results for the year compared to budget. You'll see for the year ended June 30, 2015, the budget was approved to spend $275,000 out of fund balance. The result for the year was actually positive. You actually received more revenues than expenditures by $90,851. So the result for the year was actually a positive variance of $365,851. You started the year with $882,000 of fund balance and ended the year with about $973,000 of fund balance. So if the year had gone according to budget, you would have ended up with fund balance roughly in the neighborhood of $600,000. You had voted to spend a portion of your fund balance. So we have money that's available to be carried over to the next year. And I believe for the year that we're in now, the fiscal year 16 year end, you voted $325,000 of carryover. So if that holds true, you'd have about $650,000 of fund balance available for future years. If anybody has any questions on that, or there is a lot of other information in the financial statements. There are separate fund financial statements which can be found on pages 9 and 11. Those pages will report not only the general fund but also your special revenue funds, and that's just a consolidated reporting of all of the different grant activities. So if you were looking on page 11, you'll see the column Other Governmental Funds, which reports about $1.4 million of grants received and $1.3 million of grants spent. That's a combination of all your different grants: Title I, local entitlement, Title II, Title V, and so forth. Also within the financial statements is your school lunch program. That can be found on pages 13 and 14. Page 13 is the balance sheet. Page 14 is the profit and loss for the year. You can see that for the year, the lunch program reported a loss of $28,000 before transfer from the general fund. There was a $20,000 transfer from the general fund, which resulted in an overall loss for the year of about $8,300, which actually is an improvement over the prior year. Prior year, the lunch program had lost about $73,000, and I can definitely tell you from the other school districts we've worked with so far this year that everybody's experiencing a significant drop in sale of meals. And we've got some of the larger school districts are losing $150,000 a year on their lunch program alone. So to be at fairly close to break even is not a bad position to be in. If anybody has any questions on that. One thing that is different in the financial statements this year is that they required additional disclosures regarding the Maine Public Employees Retirement System. So there is actually another set of financial statements on pages 7 and 8, which is completely different than the fund statements we were just looking at. This is an accrual basis financial statement. So on these statements, they require us to record the full value of the pension liability associated with the school, and that, according to Maine Public Employees Retirement System, is about $417,000. Of course, the state does pick up a significant portion of the pension funding, so the state's obligation, if you will, associated with the teacher's retirement, it works out to be about $8.2 million. So, they're funding 90 some odd percent of it. So the liability here is relatively small compared to some of the other schools that are in excess of $1 million. Some schools have teachers and non-teachers that participate in the PLD plan. I believe here it's only teachers that participate in the plan, so your liability is quite a bit lower than others. But there's an additional 6 pages of footnotes on that, beginning on page 28. If you're interested in reading that, there's a lot of information there. There's a lot of information in the financial statements as a whole. So I can move on to the management letters and the single audit reports, unless there's some questions here.
One question. Teachers comment, the state, that's just for our district, that amount of money?
The $417,000 figure is just your district.
And the state's kicking 8 million?
8.2 is the
Just for
value
our
there.
district?
Yeah, just for your district.
Oh, God.
Yep. I think the overall state liability is in excess of $1 billion. So.
Move on.
Okay.
Fine, thank you.
So as I mentioned, we did have some.
Christian, can I ask a question? For the school lunch program, when we spoke last time, we were told that there was around $90,000 in debt from last year. So I don't understand the breaking even comment.
Oh, okay. That was just for the year. Yes, you're correct. That at the end of the year, at June 30, 2015, you're $90,800 in the hole. You do have a deficit, but for the year, the loss this year was a lot less than prior years. The loss this year was $8,300 after subsidy from the general fund. So you went from.
Oh, because we paid it out of the general fund.
Correct.
I
Yes.
got you. So the loss was still $90,000 from that program, with us having to fund basically the difference.
Yeah, that's the loss cumulative over
Okay.
the last few years. But for the particular year, it was relatively close to break even, I would say,
Okay.
for this 1 year. Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Well, yes and no.
No, right.
It's $30,000 loss overall, 28,000, then you're throwing 20,000 in the kitty to make away look like 8. It's still a $30,000 loss
Yes,
from, thank you.
definitely true. Yes. So we did issue a separate management letter. It's a 2-page letter, and in that letter, that's where we report whether there are material weaknesses or significant deficiencies. Now, material weaknesses are the highest level of concern or more significant in respect to the financial reporting of the entity. We did have 2 somewhat lower level comments that we call significant deficiencies regarding the accounting practice over recording of grant revenues and receivables, and also over the recording of the state subsidy money for the school lunch program as well. So we've gone over these comments with management, and they've accepted them and are making changes for next year to see that these comments don't get repeated. We did not have any significant deficiencies or material weaknesses in the prior year, so these were new in the current year. I can move on to the comments letter. We do have a number of comments in the comments letter. There are 4 comments that were repeated from the prior year, and another 4 other comments that were new this year. But these are items that we would consider to really be just best practices or housekeeping measures. These are, when the comments don't rise to the level of significant deficiency, we do have the option of communicating them to management verbally or writing them in a letter. So we've chosen to write these in a letter. We've gone over all of these comments with management. None of these items are significant or likely to have an adverse effect on financial reporting, but they are opportunities for improvement. So we have written them out, and again, we've gone over them with management, and they've accepted them. I don't know if you've had a chance to look at those ahead of time. If you have specific questions, I can certainly go over any specific comments.
Does the
Would like-
board have that? I'm trying to figure out which letter that is.
It's a 3-page. Yeah.
Okay, that's the one I don't have.
Most of the comments I have here are related to just following, documentation and following a policy. I'd say, the first 2 comments, the first comment specifically is about the lunch program, and making sure that student account balances are better tracked and also recorded in the financial statements is probably the most important out of all of them, but the remainder of them are more or less policy comments. So moving on lastly to the single audit report, we did test separately the child nutrition program for compliance with federal guidelines. We did have a finding there with respect to the free and reduced price meal applications either not being completed correctly or not being properly reviewed and approved. So this was a finding that we also had in the prior year as well. So we definitely think that this is something that's important to improve upon and correct going forward. We had, let's see, and we also reviewed the special education program. And there was one item found there where there was one transaction, payroll transaction, that didn't have documentation of approval. So we had to write that comment up as well, just making sure that all of them.
Yeah. Where are those in this? Are they in the report itself or part of a letter?
No, they're part of a separate Single Audit Act report, which I don't think would have been distributed.
Okay.
We certainly could distribute it, but I guess we typically only send one copy
Okay.
to our clients. Usually that's what we've been doing. But with special ed, there was one comment with special ed for June 30 of 2014 regarding obtaining semi-annual certifications, which was corrected and implemented this year. So there was one comment that went away, and then the comment regarding the free and reduced price meal application review process is a repeat comment. So, but other than those two issues, there, the federal grants did, receive a clean opinion on their audit, with the exception of that item. There's 14 different compliance requirements that we're required to test, including how the money is spent. There were no issues with how the money was spent, but there were with respect to the comments we wrote up, just not following federal guidelines and best practices.
Anybody else have any questions? Okay. Thank you very much.
All
We
right.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
And moving on to our second presentation, and Kim Spencer is going to do the State of Schools for Minot Consolidated School.
Thank you, Karen.
Yeah, good luck.
What's the number?
It'll come up on the
You gotta
screen.
wait.
No, I mean the,
It's the library, but don't click it yet until you see it, because then it's gonna get all messed up.
and then I know about the 4-digit number.
Yeah.
I know about that. Okay, while we wait, I'm Kim Spencer. I'm the principal of Minot Consolidated School.
Okay, there we go.
Go. And here we go. Thank you very much. All right. So thank you for having me tonight. I always kind of try to think about something that's special about Minot Consolidated School, and I do have something tonight that's special about Minot Consolidated School in the presentation, although it's not what I want you to remember about this presentation. You'll find that out as we go along. So, so here is just a bit of a shout out for our 2015 National Blue Ribbon School. On the bottom left and right, you can see the t-shirts that our community club purchased for every single student and staff member at Minot Consolidated School. On the middle, you see, it's hard to see, but in between the columns, we have a blue ribbon banner that's hung up there, and then to the left of that, we have our 3 flags on our poles now, the American flag, the Maine flag, and the blue ribbon flag. And then to the right of the middle picture, you'll see my lanyard with the ribbon that actually Cindy Levesque made one for every single staff member. They're beautiful. And then we purchased a metal blue ribbon pin for the staff as well. So we're well displayed. So learning, Minot Consolidated School, first thing on the docket. We have 6 pictures here. I just took some random pictures as I walked the halls one day. We'll start in the top row, and that's a 5th grade class doing some book projects. This has to do with, the first one has to do with a Harry Potter book. It's a game board. It's a very complicated game board. The top middle is a 2nd grade classroom. They're working with force and gravity and rolling marbles down a loop-to-loop and learning how, when you change the course, it affects whether the marble goes around or not. So learning some good science words there. Top right is our pre-K class. They start every morning now with some happy talk. And you choose a student of the week, and that student of the week has a lot of happy talk going on about him or her. Bottom left, that's our Title I room, and we have some 3rd graders learning about test-taking skills. And in the middle bottom, we have, that's another Title I, intervention. This is a 1st grade student, I think, kindergartner, looking for sight words and coloring in the sight words on that creature paper. And then on the bottom right, that is a kindergarten class with their pegboards, learning about patterning with colors and numbers. So just a little bit there for you to see. So starting with our student demographic data, we have 75% of students in grades 3 through 6 have attended Minot since kindergarten. That's huge. I think that's one of the major contributing factors to our academic success is that we have kids who stay. And I don't think that is a common place, that's commonplace. 75% of students have been there since kindergarten. We have just about a 50-50 split with boys and girls. 50% of our population are boys, 50% of our population are girls. We have about 247 students now. I'm sorry I did not include that there. 247 students now. 33% of our students are eligible for free and reduced meals. So again, some pictures of some work here. We have on the bottom left a graphic organizer with, character setting problem solving that the students are filling in and solution. And in the middle, there's a box for title. In the second is the phys ed class. They're working, they're comparing and contrasting hockey games, materials, everything that goes along with hockey, comparing and contrasting with floor hockey, ice hockey, field hockey. And the third there is our break time with one of our functional life skills students. After he does some work, he gets some break time on his all-time favorite motivator, and that's the iPad. And on the far right, there's a library class. And I think they are talking about, they're also doing comparing and contrasting with seasons, I think, or something. I can't remember. So staff retention. So our staff, the range is between 2 and 41 years. Staff has been, so we have both really some young teachers and some veteran teachers. The mean is about 12.5 years as an average. We have just about, again, a 50-50 split of staff who has been there between 2 and 6 years, and then there are some trickles in the middle, and about 50% who have been there for 10 to 41 years. So it's split about 50-50. All right, we have Miss Brimmer, who is our 41-year vet. Miss Hobart, I think she's 31 or 32. And then Miss Hussey, she's been secretary for 6 or 7 years. And then one of our newer teachers on the far right, Miss Pulliard, is our 6th grade teacher, and I believe this is her 3rd year. So getting into some of our, okay, here we go with this, what's special about us this year. So for the Smarter Balanced last year, there were multi-steps for students to get logged in for the different tests. Multi-steps that the teacher had to take, multi-steps for the students to take to kind of find the right test to take on the computer. Well, we made a mistake. So some of our students took the wrong test, and therefore their results did not count. So I don't think you'll hear that from any of our other administrators, and that's kind of what's special this year, but please don't remember that only. But that is, our numbers are still really well, they represent the students really well. When the mistake was made, we corrected, so we thought we corrected it. I was on the phone to the Department of Education, we thought for sure we had corrected it, but when our results came back, our attendance rates, participation rates were still showing those students who took the wrong test. So we will, this year we're going to be extremely careful, extra careful. We did lots of training last year. Teachers were trained, I was trained. It was just a mistake. And Tina and I have talked, and we're kind of surprised it didn't happen more often because, again, it was just such a multi-step process to get students logged into the right test. So looking at our results, these are the literacy results. You can see it's broken down into some subgrouping, and the middle column is our percentages of students who met or exceeded the target, and then up to the far right is the state percentages for students who met or exceeded the target, the state target. And you can see that we are above the state still, with the exception of students with disabilities, and that number was really affected by our mistake because that represents such a small number of our total population that it just really shows as a low figure. I'm not worried about it. I think, again, it's a result of some of the low numbers that we have. So you can see that in all of those subgroups, we are above the state, which we are very pleased with. And for math, the same results are shown here. We are above the state percentages. I have a little parentheses there under economically disadvantaged. That shouldn't be there. I don't know why that's there. A little smiley face. I don't know. But again, our numbers are strong. We're very proud of that. We'll have the MEAs this year. They are not Smarter Balanced, but we are thinking that they will reflect more of our old MEA style. Not sure. But we, again, will just be very, very careful when it's time to log in to make sure that we log in our students on the right test. Any questions about the literacy and math comparison with the state in those subgroups? Okay. Here is the overall state testing results. So you can see on the far left in that neon green, you can see that we did the kneecaps from 2010 to 2014, and then last year we did the MEA Smarter Balanced. And the middle column is literacy, the far right column is math, and again, the number of students who are proficient or above. And we, again, have some really strong numbers. I'm not concerned with our drop in percentages from the MEA at Smarter Balanced last year. We are still 12 percentages higher than the state overall in literacy, and 15 percentages higher than the state in math. Okay, any questions? Okay. Office referrals, this is an area that we're working on. We now have a form that teachers are getting used to filling out when there are minor and major behaviors. Just it's a data collection system so that we can identify where our problems are occurring, when they're occurring, what are the major infractions, which category they fall in. So you can see that there's the location and the number. So 10 of them come from the classroom this year, 3 from the cafeteria, 3 from the playground, 1 from music, 1 from bathroom. What's interesting is 14 out of the 18 are boys, 4 are girls. So that is an area that we will be looking at. So every incident. And these numbers, I anticipate these numbers to grow because, again, until staff really see the value of filling out the form for tracking this, until they see the value of that, I still think that there are some behaviors that aren't being recorded. Teachers are addressing them, but they're just not being recorded. Yes, Ms. Ryu?
So you don't have numbers, like behavior numbers like this from before we had morning recess and after morning recess?
No.
That's too bad.
Yeah, that would be interesting. Yeah, we do not.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, and then another question.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you think when it's too cold for the kids to go outside, the numbers will change as well? Like indoor recess, outdoor recess?
That's the good thing about this system is that recess time is we can track that, and so if we see a spike in recess incident reports, we can look at the date of those, look at the date of our inside recess, and see if there's a correlation. So this gives us that ability to do that.
Okay.
Yeah. Just for information, we really try to get kids out unless the temperature is 10 degrees or colder. Their recess is short. No one's going to freeze. You know, we make sure that they've got their correct clothing on, but it's really important to get outside and get fresh air and a little bit of exercise. So our cutoff our temperature is 10. So every incident is investigated to whatever degree needs to be investigated. Either the teacher who is dealing with the minor, or I will investigate any majors. They are documented, followed up with conversations with the child and the teacher or the bus driver, communicated home in some way, whether by phone call, note in planner, or meeting, and then followed up with a logical consequence depending on the situation.
Firing squad.
Yeah, no. So ongoing focus areas. This year, our focus areas in our professional development have been running records, guided reading. Last year, you might remember that it was more writing that we were working on. So this year, it's running records, guided reading, mathematical practices. We're in the process of researching and investigating 3 math programs. Once we do that, there'll be some professional development on that as well. We have ongoing focus area is our Title I reading support for struggling readers, professional practices through our teacher evaluation and professional growth system, our professional practices aimed at improving instructional effectiveness, and the data collection on student behavior and understanding the motivation behind those behaviors. So our next steps will be to continue to explore and increase our work in the Tier 1 and Tier 2 academic and behavioral positive interventions and supports for struggling students. Tier 1 typically happens in the classroom through the classroom intervention systems, and Tier 2 are for students who just aren't responding to that in-class intervention. And we try to get at least 80% of students responding to Tier 1 within the classroom with the teacher as the interventionist, and then the 10 or 15 above that Tier 2, and then there's just a small percentage who may need some Tier 3 interventions. But right now we're focusing on Tier 1 and Tier 2 interventions and supports. Again, the professional practices aimed at improving instructional effectiveness and connecting the classroom instruction and standards to our teacher evaluation and professional growth standards. So really understanding what those standards are that teachers are going to be evaluated on and how they connect to teaching practices. So the commendations, our community involvement is huge. We have 98% of our parents and students attend student-led conferences, and maybe LED should be LED. I think it should be. 84% attended our open house, and 80 veterans were served at our Veterans Day celebration, which is up from last year. We had a lot of veterans this year. Our active community club is another commendation that I need to shout out on. So the fundraisers are the Yankee Candle. We do a great fundraiser with that. Square One Art, which is really connected to our art program. It's an incredible fundraiser, as well as it's just a beautiful way for our art to be shown off. We have banners in the gym, box tops for education. We did an inkjet recycling program this year and a bottle redemption. We just have an ongoing bottle redemption program. Some of the events that they sponsored were the blue ribbon T-shirts that you saw in the first slide. Our storyboard walk, which is an incredible opportunity to get outside. I think there are 12 different podiums that each podium has a page or two from a book that students go and follow the book from podium to podium and are outside walking at the same time. It's just a really nice activity and opportunity for kids. The trunk or treat, fall festival, veterans lunch, you can read on through, but the first 2 are really new, new events this year, which were really appreciated. But everything they every month, someone from the community club does a staff appreciation. Before Christmas, it was crock pot full of hot cocoa with all sorts of condiments to put in the hot cocoa. It's delicious. Excuse me, perfect for that time of year. They do field day every year. This year, also what's new is they're going to do a dress swap before the father-daughter dance, a couple of months, maybe a couple of weeks, maybe even a month before the father-daughter dance. They're going to do a dress swap. So anybody who has old prom dresses from their daughters, bring them to Minot Consolidated School, and they're going to be displayed for our. It might be too big if they're from your daughters. But if you have little ones from their younger years. Those are some new events sponsored by our community club. The last frame here is, again, commendations from our MEA Smarter Balanced scores. Student achievement, again, 3rd, 4th, 5th grades above state standards in reading. 6th grade was down 1% from the state averages. And 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th grades were all above the state average in reading. And our economically disadvantaged students were above the state in both reading and math. So those are some good student achievement.
And Kim, I think that second one you said was math.
Oh, yes, I didn't change that. Yeah, the 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th grades are above state average in math. Yes, thank you, Tina. And some staff commendations for the commitments that they've made. We and the board and the townspeople have supported the increased in guidance services and gifted and talented services. So we really have seen some nice programs come out of those two programs. In guidance, our school counselor, should be school counselor is the term we're using, has started a civil rights team at school, and they're doing some nice work in just being open and accepting of everybody, no matter what the differences are. So that's been a really nice program for our students. And we now have a 2.5-day gifted and talented teacher, and he has increased the services that he's offering to students as well. We have about 12 teachers participating in a guided reading, and that was one of our focus areas, a guided reading book study. And lately we've had to rely on our special education ed techs to provide some support for a couple of our non-special ed kiddos who we are temporarily, we're putting into some intervention programs, and they've just helped us get those started. So we're thankful for our special education staff support. And staff commitment as far as our response to intervention and positive intervention and supports teams. We have all staff members on one of those teams. We have 5 staff members serving as our GLF, grade level facilitators at a district level. I'm thankful and we have commitment from all staff with our positive supports for students academically and behaviorally. One class performs every month at our Minot Mustang assemblies. We have our Writers' Tea continuing this year to celebrate student writing, and just the overall collaboration and supportive and problem-solving spirit at Minot. 18 minutes. Any questions? All right, so we have a lot to be thankful for. Forget the one special. That won't happen again. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on in our agenda to act on the minutes of our regular meeting of December 14th, 2015.
Move to accept.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? A second by Aaron. Is there any discussion? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor?
Oh!
Anyone opposed? So that was unanimous. So we'll move on to our financial statement, and it's to approve the December 2015 financial statement.
Move to accept.
Second.
With Stacy's comments.
So I have a motion and a second. Anybody have any questions? Jack?
In the summer revenues for food service, I think we talked about this last time. Are we just seeing the negative numbers because everything hasn't come in yet?
What page are we on?
Yeah. Hang on a second, I'll tell you. I just made myself a note on the top after I looked through it.
Should be at the end.
Yeah, it will be towards the end.
On page 2 of 2, which is at the very end before
Yep.
1 of 4.
Yeah, summer revenues.
Right after page 33.
Move two.
Yeah, it's right after the last page in your regular budget. So right after 33 of 33, you got page 1 and 2.
Yeah.
That's the food service section.
Revenues show in the software in parentheses. That's how the computer differentiates between expenses and revenues.
Right.
And it can be very confusing. A lot of times I'll just present a revenue page in Excel so that you don't have to look at the negative numbers. So all that means is we were anticipating 118,000 for the summer revenues, and that does match the expenditures,
Okay.
but we actually received 147,000.
Gotcha.
Remember last time, Jack, we talked about the summer program made around $27,000 for
Yeah.
the feeding between our local feeding and also the catering work.
Stacy, is there anything in here that you would like to make us aware of?
I would just like to let you know we are 50% through the budget with this printout. But if you look at some of the salary lines, they'll show a little higher because the report, the end date of the report is June 30. So the reporting column, reporting period, is showing the whole fiscal year. And the January 1 payroll was already posted by the time this was printed. So your salary lines will show a little less than 50%. The second line from the bottom on the front revenue page is that $325,000 the auditor was mentioning to you that we're using for a fund balance this year. On page 5, page 5 and page 6. The top of page 6 shows the Minot Consolidated School K2. And if you look at that first column, the teacher salaries just shows $34,800. That is only one teacher. And you have more than one teacher teaching K2. So there are actually 6 people there. We will be fixing that because we have an upload that is due to the Department of Education by the 15th of this month. And we need to show the true expenditures for that cost center. K2 is a targeted area under EPS, which means we do get a little extra subsidy for that. So we want to make sure our reporting is correct. And so I spoke with Tina. We're going to do what's called the budget adjustment. We will take the correct amount of money that's actually in the regular instruction, which is on page 5, and we'll move that to the K2 section, which is $301,000. So you'll see that adjustment next month. We just want to make sure the reporting is done correctly to DOE for our subsidy. And the only other thing to point out was on page 31 and 33. Under the first section, the last line down is the PCS bond interest. The principal and interest payments, the interest is, I'm sorry, I'm talking in circles. The principal is due in November on bonds, and then there is an interest payment due in November and May. So that's why there's no balance left on the principal line, but there is a balance left on the interest line. And that is the same thing on page 33 under debt service. Those were my only comments.
Anybody have any other questions for Stacy?
Good job.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? It's unanimous. Okay, we have no old business. In terms of new business, to authorize the superintendent to enter into a lease purchase agreement with the Androscoggin Bank for the purchase of a bus for student transportation.
So moved, but I need some clarification. I thought we did something last month.
Okay, first we have a second,
Second.
and a second by Ed. Yes. Want to
Last
clarify
month,
that?
yeah, last month we did the van, And was it the van last month?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
the van. And so this is the bus that we, one of the 2 buses that we were supposed to get, which we are now just getting. So that's, am I answering that correctly, Stacy?
You are.
So the
we
bond,
got 3 buses.
no, we got 2 buses this
You
year.
approved for 3, we're only purchasing 2.
Oh,
Yeah.
And we've already accepted one, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is just to get the lease for
Signed.
that,
For
yeah,
that one that we've
bus,
already
that,
received?
the one that we're just receiving now.
Okay.
Any other questions? So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Was unanimous. The next thing on our agenda, we actually did that last month, and it was reflected in our minutes, so we don't need to do that special ed teacher nomination. But we do have some teacher resignations. Do you want to address them?
Most of these were in your packet. Bob O'Brien is a science teacher at the high school, and he's retiring at the end of this year. And he has been with us since 2011, so he's been with us around 4 years. We have Chad Petherbridge, who's also a teacher at the high school. He's resigning as of the end of this year to pursue other career options for himself. Jan Biggie is resigning effective February 12th. So they have a 60-day notice clause in their contract. She gave her 60-day notice, and February 12th is the date that she will be done teaching. And we have Ann Hobart, who is a teacher that is retiring after 31 years in the district. And she is a kindergarten teacher at Minot Consolidated School. So she is committed many, many years to this district. So all of these, of course, are losses for us. We don't like to see our teachers leaving, but most of them, again, this is the time of year they put in their notice for retirement, because if they put it in by a certain amount of time, they get some payout for sick days if they've been with the district for a certain number of years. Yes.
How does the, I can't pronounce her last
Jan
name.
Biggie.
Biggie,
Yep.
how does that affect that school? Are we gonna be short a teacher now, or is there?
So she's a Title I teacher, so she provides like our RTR, additional supports for
Sure.
staff. She's grant funded, and we will be filling the position. So again, that's the whole purpose of the 60-day notice. So hopefully we'll have a person in place by February 12th, so there's no gap in their services. Yes.
the first teacher's been here 4 years and moving on.
Yes.
retired.
He's retired.
Yeah, I guess my question is, say if a person's worked here 10 years and they go and find a job somewhere else, when they get ready to retire, do we have to contribute to their state retirement funds?
So the teacher contributes to their retirement, and the state contributes to their retirement funds. And how does that work, Stacy?
We started having to match mainstay retirement 3 or 4 years ago. So as we do the payroll each month,
Stacy,
we pay in.
please.
Each month as we do payroll, we pay in a match to Maine State Retirement for just those salaries that they've earned in that month. Once they leave here, we no longer have an obligation to match that.
And their new employer would be doing the same. So
Yes.
the staff member contributes and the school department, and the state does not contribute anymore? Is
The
that what
state
you're-
does.
Oh, okay,
Yes.
so all three parties.
So when the auditor sat here tonight and said we contribute $400,000 a year, that's just for our active teachers we have on.
That is the liability that the state has to calculate their liability for all of the teachers who will potentially retire.
Yeah.
That's what that amount is.
We are actually, say if you retired tomorrow after 40 years, once you retire, what we're paying into the systems is done. We've already contributed the money.
Yes.
Okay, that's my question. Thank you.
Thank you, Stacy.
Okay, so do we have a motion? Do you have other questions about these or comments? If not, we'll need a motion to accept these teacher resignations.
Make a motion to accept them with regret.
Second it.
Okay, a second from Norm. All those in favor? I guess we can't say we're opposed. Though we'd
They
like to.
deserve to retire when they're ready, but we hate to have them leave.
And we have no policies this month. Administrative reports were included. Anybody have any questions or comments on those? I had a couple. John, I just wanted to say that I appreciate your continued efforts to look at waste management and composting, because I know that it is a definite challenge to come up with a program, an effective program in a district. And I know we've been trying for a long time to do that, and we've had a strong desire to do that. It's just been difficult to do. So I appreciate your continued efforts to try to figure out that one.
Mary, in addition,
Aaron?
I read your report here, and I just want to apologize for the technology, but thank you for putting in all that effort of losing your entire report. It's nice to know that you were putting in that type of effort to get us the information, so thank you.
And Holly, I had a question for you. You said that we had 320 special education students, and that was 18.4%. That's pretty close to the state average, isn't it? What's the state average?
I'm not sure what the state average is. I know the state would like us to be around 15%, but most school districts are always higher than that, 15%. So we're probably pretty similar.
Okay, that's what I thought. And I noticed in the middle school one that Sean had talked about a grading guide, and I got an email from one of the middle school teachers yesterday, and that they're going to be soliciting community feedback on that. So I think that will be a useful tool for not only us as a board, but parents and community to understand grading when they get that done. So appreciate the efforts on that, Sean. Anybody? Mariella?
Could somebody expound on the community forum for mental health that's going to be on January 20th in terms of who you hope to have attend and what you hope to have for outcomes?
That's in my superintendendent's report, so if you don't mind holding off, I'll go into some information on that in my superintendent's report.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments on administrative reports? Okay, we'll go to our report of student representatives. Sarah's not here tonight, but Libby is, so.
I don't have much to report, but we submitted our final proposal regarding honor regalia for graduation, and now we're working on Winter Carnival, which is a big deal, so we'll be working on it right up until the last minute.
When is Winter Carnival?
February, I think it's right before February break.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Libby. Subcommittee reports, we don't have any because we didn't meet in December because of the holiday. And our next meeting is January 25th, which is a workshop day, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, but we still have committee meetings that day. So. Report of the school board chair. Wanted to talk first about open seats, because we do have 7 open seats during the spring. And I did ask Lauren to check for us in terms of when nomination papers were available and when they were due, so that anybody here that is running would have that information. In Mechanic Falls, and my term is up this year, and so is Aaron's, and nomination papers are available March 21st and due back on May 4th. So we've got a little bit of time in Mechanic Falls. So, and Aaron and I are both going to run again. In Poland, Mariella, Norm, and Scott Sawyer seats will be open. Scott Sawyer is no longer a resident of Poland. He's moved to Florida, so that seat is open. And we're hoping that Mariella and Norm can be convinced to run again. And those nomination papers are available now. They're available January 7th and need to be back before February 16th.
Well, I guess I will say that I would really like to see someone step into my place, and maybe someone who would like to become a part of the board community, of maybe a younger parent. So if anyone has any questions, they can feel free to contact me, and I will help them with the process. I even offered to get Norm's signatures for him.
He told me he offered to get yours, too.
I did go in and take out nomination papers today. Of the positions, 2 of them are for 2 years and 1 for 3. So I took the one for 2 years so that Mariella could run for 3.
Thank you, Norm. Thank you, Norm, for taking out papers. We were hoping you'd do that.
My feeling is, you know, I did it for a long, long time before. Nobody in the town of Poland stepped up this last year, so I did it. My feeling is I really would like to see some people become active that have, as Mariella says, younger people that, younger parents that have kids in the system. I think it's great for them to be active and do it. Yeah, let's hope that, as when I was in there today, there was nobody had signed up at all yet. So you've got a month, people.
Right,
out there in
and Scott
television
Sawyer's
world.
seat is definitely open.
Yeah.
We're still hoping we can convince Mariella to stay with us.
Well, I left the
but-
3-year one for her. If she wants to get off early, there's another 2-year one.
And in Minot, Stephen and Annette's term is up. Both of them are going to run again, and those.
We're gonna run.
No, you've taken out nomination papers. They were available on the 7th and need to be back by the 19th. So
Of this month?
yes.
Yeah, so if I could just add it, for, if you do have, you know, neighbors or people in the community that you know that are pretty engaged in educational issues, please encourage them, especially Poland, because that Poland seat is pretty important, where it's, you know, we have the weighted votes and all. We don't want to have an open seat from Poland if we can help it.
Right.
Oh, that'd be good.
No, it would not.
Where everyone else, we're going to be, we're going to keep all of the rest of you.
So I also wanted to talk a little bit about budget season. Budget committee members from this group are, I'm on that committee, Aaron is, Norm, Tina Love, Mariella. In terms of town representatives for Mechanic Falls, it's Steve Bolduc, and Steve is here tonight, correct? Good. And we appreciate that you're willing to do that. Thank you. And in Minot, there were 2 names, and they are going to choose, right? Or
They
did
already have, yeah.
Okay. Is it
It's
William or Bernice?
It's William.
William Perry is going to be the representative from Minot, and in Poland it's Lionel Furland. And our first meeting is an all-day meeting on Thursday, February 25th, and then there are 3 Thursday evenings in March, the 3rd, the 10th, and the 24th. At our April meeting, we should have a proposed draft budget, and then that's followed by the informational meetings the last week in April, in Mechanic Falls on the 26th, Poland on the 27th, Minot on the 28th, and then we will take that input from those town meetings and our budget committee and make a presentation at the May school board meeting for final approval, and then our district budget meeting is May 23rd. So that's kind of our process. And Steve, did you get a list of those dates, or is that something you need?
Yes, and I will not be at that first meeting.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll find a way to get that information to you. Are we going to be able to video it too?
Yes, just like we did last year. We're working on making sure we have a video, so you'll be able to watch a whole day of riveting testimony.
And our board meetings are also on video on the website, so it will be that same kind of format on our website for anybody at home to watch also. So that's sort of our budget process. Does anybody have any questions or?
Just to clarify, the March meetings, Because the Thursday one is all day is the February 25th.
Right, and then,
And the March is 3, 10, and 24.
correct.
What times are those?
Those are from 6 to 8.
6 to 8. Okay.
Yep,
Thank you.
6 to 8. And then,
Yes.
and they're here. Yep. And then I just wanted to report out just that before tonight's meeting, Carrie and Mariella and Tina and I met with Libby, and we talked about our goal in terms of gathering student feedback, trying to decide what were the things that we'd like from information from students, what we'd like to give students, and we came up with 2 action items, things that we're going to work on to start with. One is that the student representative will report 3 times a year to students, and we talked about what were the vehicles that were in place now that they could report through. And there is a Knight Rider newspaper that they will report things to students from the board 3 times a year in November, February, and May, and they'll also post it on a bulletin board that they have available. And in March, we will get a survey, and we talked some about what were the things that we wanted from students in terms of that. And basically, our surveys are tied kind of to our strategic plan and how well we're doing at meeting the goals of that strategic plan. So we were thinking about trying to get general feedback that would kind of inform that, how well we were doing on that, rather than specific kinds of feedbacks about specific courses or whatever. More general kinds of feedback from students to get a sense of what they feel about their educational experience. So they're going to do that in Roundtable in March. And Carrie and Libby are going to do some work on that. So we appreciate that. So those are kind of the 2 action items we came up with to start to address that goal in terms of student involvement and feedback. So we're to the report of the superintendent.
So the first item on mine is food service update, and John has been doing extensive work with us, so I'm going to let him give the first part of the report.
Okay, the last month has been rather educational and interesting, to say the least. I've been working with DOE Nutrition and a couple of contractor consultants, and they're guiding us through the process to make sure that our food service is still meeting regulation. Of course, with the lack of a staff food service director at this point, I'm winging it, but we're getting there. So one of those consultants is going to stay on with us for the next 4 weeks. We have contracted for 160 hours, and specifically that person is going to be doing really a finite investigation of our food service program, and making sure that we're taking advantage of all the efficiencies that we might be missing. One of the efficiencies that I believe we can achieve is in the future, possibly going with maybe a half-time food service director. With some restructuring, we can probably get away with just having that position be reduced.
John, is that because we have a food manager in each of our buildings that we're able to do that?
Let me go on.
All right.
So that being said, I do want to specifically thank the food service staff as a whole. In the month, they've really stepped up, and they continue to function like they haven't missed a beat. They've been really top notch. And I especially want to thank our 4 food service managers, Chelsea Harrison at Elm Street, Maureen Heath at PCS, Gail Griffin in Minot, and Cecile Martin at the high school. Those 4 ladies, their team effort attitude has really been phenomenal. They've been super cooperative, and they keep me in line. One of our weaknesses that we have discovered, we believe, is in our data collection. Our point-of-service terminals at all of our schools have all been reprogrammed. Linda Chasen spent a lot of time getting those up and running, so that it's not that we weren't collecting the data, but we believe now we're collecting more improved data that's going to help us make better choices in the future. And I do want to thank Linda for her work. We have to continue to analyze our costs versus expenses for the meal services that we do offer. You've often heard the phrase that there's no free lunch. Well, unfortunately, there's no free breakfast either. Our breakfast program is losing money, and the reason being is because, without going into a whole lot of detail, our Provision 2 schools are designed so that the subsidies received for the breakfast program well, it's kind of complicated, but essentially, based on the ratios of your free and reduced numbers, determines how much you get back in subsidies for those programs. The problem is that our free and reduced ratio numbers are not high enough to support the students that are considered paid. But because we're offering a free breakfast program, we're not earning enough money to cover our expenses. As a district, our free to reduce ratio is 40.87%. And it's been suggested that in order to make money with a totally free program, you have to be around 75 to 80, 85%. And so as you can see, we're not even close. So our breakfast program seems to be the crux of a lot of where our financial losses, where we're experiencing. I don't want to give you any hard numbers tonight because I got wind breathing down my neck here. But Stacy and I are still working on those numbers, and because of the new point of service terminal collection, we believe we're going to be able to give more accurate data probably at the next meeting. We are going to be doing a lot of refining of our food service over the next month or so. We've started some menu redevelopment. One of the things that we're going to be doing is making sure that the food that we're serving in our programs are appealing to the kids, so that the kids are actually eating. We're reducing our waste. And Sean actually suggested today that we do a survey of the students, which is probably something we will do in the future. But we have to keep in mind that we can't just feed what it is that the students want to eat. We are regulated by federal standards. So hopefully we can do both. So over the next month, we're going to continue to plug away at this and continue to have good news.
I appreciate all your work, and I know it's been an enormous task, and appreciate you taking it on. Steve?
Why did we go to all free breakfasts?
So
if we are losing our shirts, who's just our doing, the government's doing, or who's doing?
So the federal government and I think this happened within the last year, but I don't have the exact date, but the federal government started this Provision 2 thing and is encouraging school districts to utilize it. So I told John, just this weekend I got some sort of a press release that was, again, pushing the universal breakfast for all schools that qualify. And we qualify if you have 40% or higher. We're right at that level. What they're not telling people is that you can't afford to do it unless you have 80%. You can't. Most people can't afford to do it. So it was sold to the school board. We had presentations on this, and examples from Vermont who have been doing feeding everybody for a long time. And it comes back to that whole philosophy that kids can't learn if they're hungry. And where do you want to put your money? And there are many people who feel like if we're bringing them into the school and they're hungry, one thing that we can do is support them with a meal. But again, the community has to be able to pay for it, or you have to decide that no, parents, need to cover the cost of at least feed their children breakfast. So it was presented to us as an option with the understanding that if we had enough kids eat, it would pay for itself. But the reality is that's not true, and we just didn't have enough of the right information.
Okay. I mean, we can't get kids to pay for the lunches, and that's about breakfast.
Yeah. So, but of course. Yeah, kids will come in, and kids will often come in from home having ate breakfast, but we don't have that same option at lunch. They're not typically going home to eat. So it's a challenge, and we were hopeful that we would be able to afford it, and this would be a great option for making sure kids aren't hungry. But again, we've got to be able to afford it, and I think we're at that place where we're realizing that if you do not qualify for free or reduced breakfast or lunch, then you have responsibility to pay for your child to eat.
What would the cost be for a breakfast? For a
It's-
student, if we charged, what would the cost be for a student's breakfast?
We're allowed to charge up to $1.
Okay.
But I can tell you right now, it's costing us 97 cents just in labor expense to produce that meal.
And that doesn't include benefits, if I remember
Not
what you
benefits
told
and
me.
not food costs.
So again, either we have to restructure our staffing and how many, staff members are preparing breakfast, or we have to think differently about breakfast.
What do we serve? What do we serve for breakfast?
Well, it varies. I know they're offering fruit. They're offering Pop-Tarts.
Cereal?
Cereal on some days,
Yeah.
yes.
Different,
Yes.
different every day.
They're very continental style
Yeah,
type
that's fine.
breakfasts. Yeah.
Why Pop-Tarts?
They're good.
We get sent home letters saying, please don't put sugary foods in your kids' lunches, and you're serving them Pop-Tarts?
I'm sorry I opened that can of worms.
That's all right.
So I'll read.
This may not be the time to discuss
There-
it, but I would like
Actually,
to discuss it.
actually, there are certain flavors of Pop-Tarts that actually meet the nutritional guidelines.
I think they go with one fruit, one dairy, and one grain. And a Pop-Tart is considered a grain under certain.
But these don't have the
And don't
sugar and
quote me
stuff
on
on
that, but I
top.
believe that's the protocol.
And I've seen Frosted Flakes, and
Them are good too.
Unfortunately.
Them good
that
fiddles.
was Billy.
told that Steve sent the breakfast
Fill them full of sugar and then ask why they
So,
don't
I know John will be on the
Run fast.
discussion about what's on the menu, but they do have guidelines to meet, and I know there are times I've been in a school and I've seen a donut on a tray, so it's not like we're serving only fruit and whole grain bread and
I guess my
bananas or
question,
whatever. But
it's nothing hot and prepared, it's just,
sometimes there are hot things.
Yeah?
Yes.
the Pop-Tarts
Pancake.
almost toasted.
Yeah, I know they have French toast
Pancakes.
and
Oh.
things like that. But, all right, I'm going to move on.
All right, move on.
You ought to go back to school.
yeah.
The second item on my report is our comparability report. You've heard me talk about this. Every year, it's a little bit of a worry for me. And we are comparable. I must say that Karen Hill, our new data person, is a miracle worker.
You want to explain for people at home what that is?
Sure.
Comparability, because it's complex even when
Yes.
you know what it is. But.
So the comparability report is required for our federal money. And essentially, we have to prove that we have comparable staffing and services at each of our schools. So we can't put more money or more opportunities in one school than others. And they determine that by your student to staff ratio. And there's a second way to do it, and that's through your salaries. So you can total up salaries and see if there are comparable salaries at each school. So one of the two ways, if one doesn't work, you can try the other way to see if that works. If things are not comparable, you have to move staff immediately or you will lose your federal funds. And we get quite a lot of federal funds. So we have had time when we had to shift staff or hire additional staff. The board, remember, added 2 staff members to PCS to get them comparable at 1 year, at one point. So we are comparable, but it's very close. We are comparable by 0.2 of a staff member. So small changes in staffing or even a small decrease in enrollment at mine, it will put us in the not comparable. So we will be talking about it a little bit during budget season. We'll look at our numbers and I'll talk about the ratios. It was very close, and I was the first time I did it, it didn't turn out comparable, and then I looked at staff closely and I found one mistake that helped move it in the other direction. So Karen Hill is our new data person, and a process that used to take me 3 or 4, 5 days took, I don't know how long it took her, but not long, because she used she used spreadsheets and was able to do it electronically. But probably was reduced down to a few hours because she was able to. I used to have to put the staff on a sheet and count them by hand, and she was able to because she can build the program to do it exactly as we needed from Infinite Campus. It made a big difference. So seeing a lot of cost efficiencies with having Karen Hill on board, and I know every time I talk to Carrie, she sings her praises. So it's really helpful to have someone who can build reports, and it saved a lot of time.
So
Aaron.
when you say she's new, where did she come from? When did she start? I don't remember.
Yeah, we hired her with grant money. We hired her,
Okay.
well, she's two parts. Belinda Willette retired. She was our data person. And she was part-time. We made the position full-time, so we had the district money from Belinda's position, and we combined that with the Title VI money, which is money that you can use for technology or services that deal with, technology-type things. And so we were able to get a high-level data person in that position with skills to develop programs that can pull reports out of Infinite Campus. We never had that capability before.
When does that grant money expire?
It's a recurring grant that we get every year. It's a federal grant, so you are always waiting to find out what your allocation is, but it's been pretty stable over the years. I think 2 years ago we lost about 20% of it. I haven't heard that we're losing any more. We find out our allocation for that in September, so it's a difficult time because you've already done budget and you have people on staff in July, so you hope you don't lose it unexpectedly, but typically they're really good about giving you a heads up that certain money is going away or being reduced. So it's been a big improvement for us to be able to get assessment data out of our system and other things that we need. So comparability report's done. That made me happy.
How often do you have to do that report?
You have to do it every year, but every other year you have to show the backup data, which is everything you use, or every staff member and their FTE has to be reported to the state in detail every other year. This was our year to provide the detail.
So if Minot gets more kids?
If they lost a few students, or if there's any addition in staffing there, we won't be comparable. It was 2.2. So again, we're watching it really closely, but we are comparable, within, they give you a range of about of a certain percent. And they take the 3 elementary schools and they do an average, and then you have to be within 10% of the average or you're not comparable. So it's a complicated process, but we're there and we're happy for the rest of the year.
I have 2 questions. The first one wasn't that report related to the No Child Left Behind, or is it specifically tied to, I thought that it was going to maybe change or be different now that No Child Left Behind?
Yeah, it's actually linked to, yes, it's linked to where that money came from. So Title I, if you receive Title I, Title II, Title VI, our local entitlement, those are all grant money from the federal government. I have not heard that requirement is going away. It's just basically it says if you're spending federal money, here's one of the things you have to do. The new Every Student Succeeds Act is hundreds of pages long, and so I've been briefed on the changes in it, but they haven't gone down to details of reporting. So I'm not sure on that, if there'll be any change there. I haven't heard that there will be.
And then my second question is, does it matter that, wouldn't it matter that Minot is a smaller school population versus, say, Poland? Is there no...
Well, yeah, that's a yes and a no. Okay. So if the school is, if there is a school that is more than double the size of a smaller school, you can identify them differently. Our populations don't allow us to do that. All 3 of our schools are considered small schools. So if we had a school of 800 kids, it would be separated out in a different way. So,
any other questions on that?
All right, moving on. The Health Forum. Carrie Med and the guidance staff at the high school and my office have been doing a lot of work on this. We're really excited about the actual forum itself. It meets one of our goals that we've been wanting to do. We have invited 77 people. And that includes, of course, our board, some key staff members, guidance counselors. We've asked administrators to attend. We've also included our town managers, town selectmen. We've included first responders, fire department, ambulance, sheriff's department. We've invited staff from St. Mary's and other medical or health organizations. We've invited like health affiliates who does social work services in our school and also in our community. Can you think of anyone else I'm missing? Oh, I think we've invited some leaders of churches in the area. So a kind of a vast or diverse group of people. And our goal is going to be to talk about the issues that are affecting the school with mental health, and also how our communities are, what they're seeing in the community, and also how they're handling it. Because we're trying to figure out, when there are serious issues going on in the home, is there a way to ensure that if there are children also in the home, that there is some way to communicate services that either are available on our end or on their end, to make sure the students aren't lost in the process. And there are some pretty significant behaviors and mental illnesses that are affecting the school right now that are concerning us a lot. And Carrie's talked about them at her State of the Schools report. So it's really a way for us to communicate with the town, but also to find out what they're doing and what they're seeing, and how we can collaborate, or at least support the process, so our students are getting what they need. So at this point, we have 19 people responding, but only 5 of them are from the community. So we sent a reminder email out today, and I will make phone calls on Wednesday, Thursday, and do some personal invites if we don't hear from some key people, because it's really, if we have 50 people there, but they're all the school community, it's not really going to help us meet our objectives of the meeting. And as you saw in the flyer that we sent out to you folks, we have Greg Marley coming from the National Association of Mental Illness, and he's going to be there as a special guest. He's not really facilitating, mostly be Carrie doing the facilitating, but it's a big deal to get him to come, and we're hopeful that he will kind of be able to provide information about how what we're seeing is the same or different than what's happening around the state and the nation. So we're looking forward to really having some good conversations. So if you have connections with your town selectmen, if you would help me by making some calls, or with your town first responders, if you know the fire chief or the sheriff, or any of those people, please encourage them to join us, because this could be really valuable for our students, and have a nice positive impact on both the school and the town.
So what time is it again?
It's at 6. It's on the 20th at 6 p.m.
And is it here?
It will be in the cafeteria. Yes.
How well has it been explained to town managers of exactly what it is? I say town managers or first responders.
We've sent out the flyer to invite them. And that's what we're not going to leave anything to chance, and that's why I'll make phone calls to as many people as I can, and encourage you guys to, because we're certainly going to make sure that they understand what we're trying to accomplish, and that it could be beneficial for both the town and also the school department to have knowledge of what's happening on each side of the equation.
Yeah. Has the sheriff's department responded at all?
I don't know. Lauren's taken the RSVP, so I'm not sure who the 5 community invitees were. Okay. So I'm not sure yet.
Because they have to deal with the domestic side of this.
Yes, and that's what we're kind of thinking. A lot of the times when there's issues, our students are having issues, it's because there have been some really significant issues at home, and they're feeling the effects of it. So we're trying to make sure there's a clear line from incidents that are happening at home to what kind of supports children are getting.
Will there be a
Can you hand that down in case Win would like
Yes,
to have a
that
copy?
is, I would.
Yeah, thank you.
Does it have on the purpose of it on there?
Yes, it has a little blurb. If you need more, let me know before you leave, and I'll.
I'm sure that's in there.
Okay, thank you.
Will there be a follow-up of some sort to this, just in case people can't go?
I don't know yet. I think it will depend on, what comes out of that meeting, and if there's ongoing needs, we'd certainly, consider doing a follow-up or a second session of it. But at this point, we're pulling a lot of people together and hoping that we can do this in one good quality community forum.
Will that be videotaped?
I don't know.
'Cause you'll be in the
We'll be in the cafeteria, and we do want people to be able to speak, freely and not worry about there's a, quote or something said not quite right. But so I'm assuming it won't be videotaped, but we certainly could do a report out of how many people attended and the kind of the outcomes or what's achieved from the conversation. And so, just as an add-on, we've had one board member reply. So
I just did.
Saying, oh, perfectly. Yes. So, yes, Carrie, do you want?
I just wanted to say, just because it goes in the paper, we have not sent out an invitation to like all the parents. Like the purpose of it really isn't like for everybody to show up. It's really for people that we think have connections to the community side of what's happening. So I don't think we want like 300 people in the auditorium.
Right.
It's sort of not what, I mean, we may eventually do something like that, but this particular meeting was sort of like, this is what we're seeing, what are you guys seeing? And then, okay, now what can we do? Like to really share, we want to share what it looks like on our end and what we're doing, but to hear from those folks who are working in other parts of the communities to share that as well. So I just wanted to clarify before it turned into an open invitation.
Yes. Yeah, we have sent invitations, like I said, to 77 people, and in there, there are some, it might have been that we had one name from an organization and we've said RSVP, and you may bring others in your organization that you feel would have a vested interest in this or information that would be helpful to us. So we're not limited to only the invites, but again, the audience is for leaders and responders in the community that can be part of an action response or even just information of gathering. Any other questions?
No, but I think it's a great idea, so I'm glad we're doing it.
Great, thank you. The last thing, I know this was in your packet, but actually I got two more things, sorry. We got a technology grant. Linda wrote this 2 years ago and resubmitted it this year. For us, it's a technology grant, and we are getting a distance learning center station for here. I think it says $55,000. It said here and Bruce Whittier, so I don't know if that means one of them is $55,000 or there are two of them coming. But this is a really good opportunity for us, because what it means is if teachers want to have an interaction with another class in another state, or if they want to set up a presentation with NASA, scientists, that provides us with that opportunity. So we're really excited about that. I'm not sure when it will be here. It was probably in her details, but we did receive the grant, and it's worth $55,000. So I think that's really exciting. She wrote one in the past for adult ed, so they have one at the adult ed center. And I was part of some training when we initially got that one. Must have been in my first year here. So that's good news. I also wanted to just give a brief update about the meeting that I had with the Poland Town Selectmen. It was in the newspaper, so probably some of you have seen it. But Mary, Stacy, Norm, and Mariella and I all went to the last Town Selectmen's meeting. They had us on the agenda, and we talked to them about costs and payment for the town garage. And specifically, Stacy found out that we were paying for the bond and also for rent for the garage. So just talking about the issue that we feel like we're overpaying. for that expense, and we're hoping to work out a new process that is not so expensive, that is more in line with just paying the cost of daily operation. You know, what do we have for electricity costs or something like that. So I'll be working with Bradley Plant, the town manager, to come up with our next agreement on the garage bay, and just the conversation that we indeed have paid for the bond, so that bay is, you know, basically belongs to the RSU, and it was intended that we have the letter from, or the agreement back in 2003 when that decision was made, and kind of how that bond was split out with the RSU for their bay and also for central office. So we're working on that.
Was there any discussion about how much over we have paid and where that money sits, and
yes,
whether we're going to be getting it back? Or
so we have given them a complete breakout. The amount in rent is $61,000, and then there was also a
is that total or is that annually?
$61,000 total.
Okay.
And that includes, I believe that includes, I don't have the numbers in front of me, about in 2011 they refinanced the bond and had a savings but our payments weren't adjusted, so we've also asked for I think it's about $14,000 that we should save through the refinancing of the bond. So we are talking about what it will look like in the future if we paid $61,000 additional dollars for the bond, having that go to the bond payment we have going forward, and then us only paying what's left. Whether that will be our outcome or not, I don't know. We still have to work with them to talk about costs and all of that, the full process. But I am working on that, yes.
Will we have some sort of answer come budget time so we can build it?
Certainly,
yeah.
yes.
Okay.
So currently we're paying about $14,000 on the bond, and the $9,600 for the rent. We've stopped paying the rent and are waiting to have that discussion going forward.
Thank you.
Yes.
How many more years left on the bond?
The bond originally was set up for 2023, but it wasn't sold for 2 years, so we will now, basically that extends it out to 2025. So we have about 10 years left.
So physically, when we get done, we got own one of them bays?
We've been paying for the bond. So yes, we have a letter basically saying this one bay, this is how much it costs towards the bond. We're paying 21% of the bond.
So somewhere in the last 2003, whenever this all started, somebody lost the fact that, I'm not pointing no fingers to no one, that was supposed to be part of the schools, and then they charged us rent for our own building.
Yes, so I think you're right. There's been a lot of turnover at the town office, and there's been a lot of turnover at central office in RSU 16, or Union 29, and now RSU 16.
I'm not pointing fingers. I just want to get it in my.
And that was our conversation with the town selectmen at our meeting. So.
And Stacy realized it because she was here when we were Union 29. So. That was something that Stacy's helped us out with.
The letter was actually written to Stacy, and her name, she had signed the letter, or it was written to her, or she had written a letter. So when she came back, she had that historical knowledge that nobody else had.
Thank you.
Norm?
Some of what they're charging us, basically, we're paying for the bond and whatever they have to adjust because of the interest rate. So we own a building that we're using, but we're not getting a bill for power, we're not getting a bill for heat or any of that stuff. So the town looked at it, as I understand, as to help pay our portion of the facility. So as I understood it, what they'll do is go back and say, okay, what's the total cost that we're paying for all the utilities, whether it's heat, power,
building upkeep,
all of that maintenance,
insurance,
and then divide it by the number of square feet.
Well, we have our own insurance. So so our staff, when we did the MOU, our liability insurance covers our people working in the.
Our liability insurance covers that, but it doesn't cover the building if it burns down.
I don't know that. That would be a,
It's probably
that would
one,
be a question for, right.
Right.
it's probably under Poland's, which
Right.
is part of the cost of that, just to operate the building.
So, yeah, I'm not sure how that works. I'd have to look at how the MOU is written, but, and Norm, I think you're correct, is that, we provide our used oil to help heat the facility,
Yeah.
but we have not paid any electricity. So that will be that will be part of the discussion, and it's certainly fair game that we should pay for our, whatever the cost is for us to have general operations costs for that one day of the square footage.
Moving right along?
Yes, moving right along. And I would like to put a little shout out to Stacy. When I heard Steve say she's doing a good job, I think I said last time she found a $12,000 mistake in insurance and was able to contact the insurance company. Since last April, there was a mistake made. Recoup that $12,000, and then again, if we are overpaying for the garage bay, and it's even a $5,000 a month difference or whatever, saving that almost $10,000 a year or some portion of it, is certainly making a big difference. And those are only the two big ones. There have been other circumstances where she's come in and shown me $1,000 here or $1,000 there for smaller efficiencies that we could have addressed. So when we talked about the importance of a business manager who can really look closely at all of the costs associated with running a large,